It looks like a modest wintry mist is shaping up for Western New York for Sunday, but on this Friday, parts of Erie and Niagara County have had some flooding, some of it unexpected because we received more rainfall during Thursday night than was expected in model guidance on Thursday, which I only glanced at taking the day off. It looked like rainfall amounts in actuality were almost double what were being projected as the amounts in some of the models we depend on. And combined with the snow melt, the relatively mild temperatures, this wasn't from ice jams on streams and creeks. It was just too much water running into depressed areas in the roadways. And there were quite a number of road closures during Friday morning. Flood warnings were issued for Erie and Niagara County. And with so much humidity in the air, there isn't going to be a whole lot of evaporation. So you're still likely to encounter some more flooded intersections during the afternoon, even though we are done with heavy precipitation. As far as what goes on this weekend, not much on Saturday and not much to cheer you up in terms of appearances. We're going to have a solid overcast. There could be a little bit of drizzle or a few flurries early on Saturday. Nothing of consequence, nothing that will add to the moisture load in the soil or your basements. But then on Sunday, an area of low pressure is going to be passing by to our south. And the precipitation is probably going to start in the pre-dawn hours of Sunday as mostly rain with some wet snow mixed in over the hills. But then the column of air in the lower atmosphere is going to cool, and it does appear as this precipitation spreads northward to the Niagara frontier, the atmosphere is going to cool enough for the rain and mixed precipitation to change over to just snow. And it will accumulate, but with such marginal temperatures, whatever snow does accumulate is going to have a couple of things going against it. It will be moisture laden, slushy snow, and that kind of snow when it accumulates is so weighty with the water contained in it that it actually compresses. And that weight and compression generates heat at the bottom of the snow, causing some melting near the surface. So at this point on Friday, it does not appear that major accumulations are possible. There are a couple of outlier models that have heavier amounts than others. But in general, it looks like mixed precipitation early Sunday in the pre-dawn hours, turning to all snow during the mid and late morning hours and for the afternoon, enough to make untreated surfaces slippery with kind of a slushy accumulation. And there will be, as I said, some melting because it's such moisture laden snow, but amounts could come up to 2 to 3 inches. And a couple of the outlier models have higher amounts than that at highest elevations in the southern tier. Some of the hilltops could end up with 3 or 4, maybe even 5 inches of slushy snow. This will all wind down Sunday night. There'll be a chilly northeast breeze. This is not going to be lake effect. This is widespread synoptic, one of my favorite words, and other meteorologists too, precipitation. And that will do it for significant precipitation. On the period of Monday into Friday, no major precipitation in sight. It is possible late next week there will be some minor mixed precipitation, and that's stretching the models out. But it does appear we're still going to have slow evaporation rates due to not that much wind and a lot of cloud cover. So if your yard's soggy, the muddy paws alert is in effect. And there are 4 sets of paws in this house, so that goes quadruple for my household. And a lot of wet basements are going to stay wet, but hopefully you all have working sump point pumps as we do to help out with the runoff in the basement. So at least after Sunday's slushy, modest snow, we are done with any significant precipitation for the near future. For those of you with interests in the West and in California, there are signs that late next week, an atmospheric river is going to deliver a punch, several punches of flooding rains to parts first of Northern California, then overspreading Southern California, and also a lot of snow in the Sierra Mountains and getting into the Rockies too eventually. And this has some potential to produce major flooding in parts of California. We'll keep you updated on that. But of course, our first interest on this podcast is Western New York. And if there are changes in that Sunday forecast, if it gets a little colder than is currently modeled, might have to up the ante on the accumulations. But for now, it looks like a maximum of 2 to 3 inches of slushy snow by late Sunday afternoon, a little more on the hilltops, and there's going to be some melting going on. Next week, temperatures most days in the upper 30s, which is above average for this time of January. So some melting will continue from whatever snow it is that we get on Sunday. Thanks for listening this far. Please share, please follow. And this podcast is available on virtually every platform. All you need to do, if you don't like Spotify, is to type in the name of the podcast, Don Paul's Bits O' Blather, and it will show up on the other platforms too.